Hey everybody, my name is Chris Lambert, and this is the Kanye West news rundown for June 19th, 2018, presented by Watching the Throne, a lyrical analysis of Kanye West, the #1 Kanye West podcast. That huddled mass back there is my co-host, Felix Ducat. He is really excited to chime in on all things Kanye. In the past, these news roundups have been me highlighting the news and giving a lot of thoughts on the news. Moving forward, and with this episode, going to try something a little different, which is just more of a rundown. Highlighting what's going on, what's being talked about, and giving a few quick thoughts on it, but not the same level of sometimes over-the-top analysis. But we will be doing breakout episodes. For example, Everything is Love is not going to get discussed here. We're going to have a breakout episode about it. Nazir, is it going to be discussed here? There's going to be a breakout episode about that. So if you want to check those out, you can. I'll be wearing this same shirt. And if there are any articles in this thing that we're about to talk about that you want to have a breakout episode on, or at least more conversation about, leave a comment, and the next day I'll make a video discussing that, at least in a bit more detail. So yeah, that's how we're gonna be doing this today. So let's get to it. First up, Kanye released 2 lyric videos, and what that means is it's just a video with the lyrics, but it's done in the Ye font and is very official. So not very official, but just official, if that makes any difference. But you get this cool imagery from a drone of just the mountains. So it's kind of, fucking beautiful. So there'll be links to those down below. Kanye West was out in New York wearing these Patagonia sweats. So it's now a must-have. I just love that he's in New York wearing a full sweatshirt and sweatpants, but he's looking pretty model fresh. You can get these for just under $100. So if you want to look Yeezy fly, there you go. Rhymefest was on something called Rate the Bars, and 2 bars came up, Jesus Walks, and the bleached asshole line from Father Stretch My Hands. Believe it or not, Rhymefest really liked Jesus Walks, a song that he worked on with Kanye, but did not like Father Stretch My Hands Part 1 as much. He actually cited it as the reason why he left the studio and flew back to Chicago. Our quick take on that line, if you've listened to our Father Stretch My Hands episode, you know what our lyrical analysis is, but for anybody that hasn't, for us, Life of Pablo is a concept album. You see it on the cover. Which one? The big booty model or the family, the wedding, the wife? And that tension plays out over the course of the album, with this character, Pablo, being torn between the superficial versus the meaningful. So you see it on Father Stretch My Hands Part 1, that tension between singing the lyrics about you're the sun in my morning babe, contrasted by worrying about models and fucking the models. Then going into Father Stretch My Hands Part 2, which is such a gut punch that contrasts the beauty in the soundscape of Part 1. And that back and forth happens through the first part of the album as the character kind of encounters this desire that's tearing them apart, confronts it, and overcomes it by the end of the album. So if you want to hear more about that, we have a Life of Pablo overview episode. We also have specific track-by-track analyses from Ultralight Beam up through Wolves. So that's available. There's an article on Noisy. 5 years later, Yeezus feels like Kanye West made a deal with the devil. There are a few think pieces on Yeezus, as June 18th was just the 5-year anniversary. Not as many as we thought or expected, which was kind of strange. And of the ones that I read, this one included, they seem to deal more with Kanye at that time and Kanye now, or putting the album into perspective between then and now, without necessarily getting into the album itself or the meaning of the album itself. Still, no one talks about it as a narrative album, which is the main thrust of our podcast. It's the reason why we started our podcast, was just to get people to be aware that Yeezus is a narrative album. So still not a mission success, but maybe at the 10-year anniversary, people are going to be writing articles, finally understanding what it's doing. Here's one where Kanye West Yeezy Season 6 lookbook accused of plagiarism. And you can see the photos. This is from Things Power Themselves in 2015. This is from the lookbook. And they say that it's pretty messed up when you consider the original work by Rita Minisi explores identity and was inspired by dealing with personal trauma and a resulting desire to reconnect with her own body. Will Kanye own up to it this time? And they're just saying he ripped off of it, not even thinking that it could be an homage, that he could be sampling it to have some meaning in his own collection, just saying that it's straight up theft. Kanye's not claiming ownership for this pose. It just seems like the most simplistic and angry take to take, and one that kind of ignores a lot of the rules of the art world, or how art interacts with each other in this way. So in the second week, Ye's album sales have dropped a decent amount. They went from 208,000 units in the first week, putting Ye at number 1, to 74,000 in the second week, falling to number 5, which is a pretty big drop. It's the second biggest in 2018. But I think part of that has to do with the fact of the good music rollout. It's not just that a Kanye album came out and Kanye West fans can listen to that for weeks on end and get their fill of it. Instead, it's Kanye's album came out, then Kids See Ghosts came out, then Nas came out, produced by Kanye. So you now have 3 albums along with Daytona that are all vying for attention from fans. And fans that would have maybe just listened to Ye on repeat are going back and forth between the albums. So I think that's one of the reasons why the numbers fell so much. I mean, it could just be a lot of people listened out of curiosity, and now it is just the hardcore fans that remain, but I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Hypebeast has this article, Kanye West and Kid Cudi's Kids See Ghosts debuts at number 2. This is either meaningful or not meaningful to you if you're following Kanye's album record. He tied John Lennon and somebody else who I should remember for having the most consecutive number 1 album debuts, Ye being 8 for 8. So if you consider Kids See Ghosts as part of Kanye's main discography, his 9th album, then this would end that streak. But if you see it as a collaboration, I mean, it's by the group Kids See Ghosts, then it doesn't end that streak. So it'd just be Kids See Ghosts' first album didn't debut at number 1. There's an article, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Kanye West, and the evolution of the album rollout. This is, there have been a few articles discussing this, and that's because Kanye, with good music, has had that huge build-up to the album release. 5 weeks of albums, listening parties, all this fanfare, where Beyonce and Jay-Z just dropped their album. There hadn't been a release date. Nobody knew it existed. It just appeared on Tidal. So the contrasting methods of those releases have drawn praise, criticism, a lot of thoughts on it. Articles like this, even Questlove from The Roots talked about how he thought that Kanye's albums would have been better received had they done this and been about the music rather than the event, where, I don't know, I think Kanye did something that's going to be talked about for a long time. People are going to look back on those events in a positive way. The fans are going to cherish that, add a community feel about it. Yes, it would have been cool had Kanye just dropped album after album and we didn't know that was going to happen, but it was cool how it happened as well. Kanye West was one of many stars to react to the death of XXXTentacion. I'm trying to say that correctly. I haven't watched a video on how to say it, and I'm still really bad with saying things. But Kanye said, "Rest in peace. I never told you how much you inspired me when you were here. Thank you for existing." And this was just my Google search for things, looking specifically for Yeezus. And you can see 5 years later, Yeezus, listeners in the hands of a projected God, Kanye West's Yeezus 5 years later. And that's really it. There wasn't much more that came up on June 18th for Yeezus, which is really crazy to me. And even this DJ Booth article has a moment that just hurt my soul, where right here, film opening of On Site, and they spelled On Site S-I-T-E, not S-I-G-H-T. Like, this is supposed to be the commemorative article about On Site, and they don't even get the name right. Like, no respect. No respect. And then a happy note. Thank Yeezus, Kanye West is reportedly in a much better place. And this might just be rumor mill garbage. I mean, it's life and style, so take it with a grain of salt. But if we want to take positive things and stories from this place and ignore the negative, there's at least talk that Kanye working on these albums, people receiving the music well, he's in a much better place. And you can see this photo, he does look really fucking happy. So that's good. And then on June 18th, we dropped our Yeezus book, which I can't scroll down anymore here, but this is our deconstruction of the album. We go track by track and look at the narrative, the themes, the production. It's myself, co-host of Watching the Throne, Travis Bean, Martin Connor from Rap Analysis, and YouTube people may be familiar with Donald Martin's work on the Most Unruly YouTube channel. He does a lot of great rap deconstruction and analysis videos. So this book is our big scholarly deconstruction of that album, but it's presented in a coffee table manner. So it's something that's going to change how you listen to this album, but do so in a way that looks good, you know? You gotta look good. So it's available on the Kingshot website, but it's also the Kindle version is available right now on Amazon. So physical copies you can get and order from kingshotpress.com. And those will ship out in the next week. If you want to see some images, I don't know what that is, but this is what the interior of the book looks like. And some of this is a little bit more plain because it's just the ebook rather than the physical book. But you can see there's a bunch of art in it. There's a bunch of cool designs. It's going to be something that I think people get a kick out of. So please buy. That does it for the roundup here. We'll be back tomorrow discussing other things, and check out the breakout videos. Thanks. Oh no, I'm trying. There we go.